Jeffery Deaver, global bestseller, creator of great characters like Lincoln Ryan, and a really nice guy. I have a personal connection with him in 2011 when his James Bond book, Carte Blanche, came out. My novel, Dead Man's Grip, beat him to #1 by 93 books. And Jeffrey came up to me at a party in New York and strangled me. We had a photograph taken. And I had a t-shirt made, which I sent to Jeffrey, and on it I had JD 002, PJ 001. And Jeffrey is such a great guy, he told me he wears it regularly.
I think the most important aspect of approaching writing anything is to plan out ahead of time what you're going to do. I spend 8 months outlining each of my novels, and that's pretty much a full-time job. Joyce Carol Oates said, if you don't know what the last sentence of your book is, you're not going to know what the first sentence is. The favorite book I've written is Garden of Beasts. It's a historical thriller set in Berlin in 1936. I like to write my murder mysteries, my thrillers, which I consider kind of entertaining roller coasters. Garden of Beasts, which is about Hitler's rise to power, looks at bigger issues like the institutionalization of evil. And I felt that was a book that I needed to write, and it's done well around the world. But I feel in 100 years, when nobody remembers Deaver, I hope they'll remember my book, Garden of Beasts. I write everywhere. I'm a person who happens to enjoy writing very much. I have a low boredom tolerance, and being a novelist allows me to be on an airplane and write, sit in a waiting room and write, waiting for my girlfriend maybe to go in shopping. I'll pull out my phone or my notebook or sometimes even my computer, waiting in the car, get a little work done. I have an office in both of my homes, but I write anywhere. I was a reader from a very young age, largely because I was a nerd. I think that's a word that resonates throughout the world. I had no talent for sports. I was uniformly ignored by the cheerleaders and the pom-pom girls. But I was drawn to books. I love to lose myself in stories. So some of my earliest reading was quite eclectic at a young age, and I'm talking about grade school, which in America would be, from age 6, 7, 8, 9, and so forth. I was reading books you might expect: Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, Edgar Rice Burroughs, J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, C.S. Lewis. But I was also reading Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler, reading all the Ian Fleming books as soon as they came out. Of course, Fleming began publishing in the early 1950s, so I was born in 1950, so I didn't really start reading him until I was 8 or 9. We think, well, a young boy reading books like that, but the fact is that Fleming was a very euphemistic writer. They were really PG-rated books, according to the movie rating system nowadays. And all of those people influenced me as a writer. My guilty pleasure is cooking. I spend a lot of time alone, sitting in a room with my sick and twisted characters and my own imagination, and that's a very frightening thought. I don't have a water cooler. I don't have an office to go to, so at the end of the day, I like to invite friends over and regale them with some of my bizarre cooking concoctions. And I always wanted to open a restaurant. Then I looked into the finance of it and learned that you're going to lose money. No matter what happens, you're going to lose money. And you're going to have to deal with customers who are upset with the food you've created. They're going to be upset about the conditions and so forth. So I figured, well, I'll eliminate the middleman. If I cook dinner for my friends, I'm going to lose money too, but they don't dare complain. So it works out very well. I have no rituals before I start writing. To me, it's a job like anything else. I've been a journalist, I've been an attorney, I've worked in factories, had a lot of different sorts of jobs. And I feel you get up in the morning, you wash your hands, you brush your teeth, you have a bite of breakfast, and you get down to work. One of my favorite authors, Saul Bellow, born in Canada but an American author, one of the quintessential American authors, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature a few years ago. He said, "A writer should not pay too much attention to his own shoestrings," meaning that your job is to get the ideas down on paper, whether it is in fact paper, whether it's a computer, whether you write with a pen or pencil or a notebook, or however you do it, doesn't make any difference. Don't be self-conscious about it. I wanted to be an author ever since I was 8 or 9 years old. I wrote my first novel when I was 11 years old. It was actually a short story, but I like the idea of books, so I divided it into 2 chapters, and I did the cover art myself. And if anyone is thinking, no, it is still not extant, and it never will be. I am never truly offended by a journalist or by a fan, but when people start putting a dollar value on what I do or what other creative creators do, creative artists do, I think that's just a little troubling to me. I'm in this because it's a business. I have no problem saying that, but I don't ask other people what they make for a living. It's none of my business, and so that troubles me a little bit. Yes, I'm going to bring up the subject of, Natasha the cat. No longer with us. I had nothing to do with that. She lived to a ripe old age of almost 20 years. But in the days before computers had batteries in them, I had written an entire chapter, and Natasha leapt off my shoulder where she was inclined to sit while I wrote, and hit the electric cord on my computer and pulled it out. And that was an entire chapter I lost. The lesson, even then, back up, back up, back up. And since then, I back up all of my books, not only to the cloud, encrypted, I add, of course, and as if someone was going to break into my computer and steal one of my books, but encrypted in the cloud, and then on 3 different hard drives, and I carry around a little flash drive with me as well. I am a big organizer ahead of time. I do outlining. I spend 8 months outlining a book and doing the research. I come up with a very simple concept. My latest novel from Hodder is The Steel Kiss, and that book is about a psychotic killer who, for reasons that are ultimately revealed, uses household products and commercial devices as murder weapons, things like escalators, elevators, microwave ovens. And that was the idea for the book, and I had no idea where it was going to go. So I spent the next, in that case, about 7.5 months outlining it, coming up with plot twists and turns, various reversals throughout the book, doing a lot of research, creating characters. And at the end of the planning period, the outline was about 150 pages long. I knew where every clue in the book was. I knew where every red herring was placed. I knew when the characters entered the story, when they left, either vertically or horizontally, because not everybody survives the end of a Jeffery Deaver novel. And then I could sit down and write the novel itself. And that took me only 2 months to write about 130,000 words, because I knew where it was going to go. When I teach my writing courses, I tell my students there's nothing more subjective than writing. If you want to sit down and simply let the muse, whatever that might be, move you, that's fine. I think, however, that a more efficient way to work is to plan it all out ahead of time, and you will also find that you might have an idea that should not be turned into a book, because you have to ask yourself in your heart of hearts, have you ever read a book that should not have been written? And yes, we all have. And I think by planning it out ahead of time, maybe not to the extent I do, that will weed out the stories that seemed good in the middle of the night, but maybe in the light of day should not be turned into novels. We owe a huge amount to our readers. We have to give them the best product we possibly can.
I'd love to know which is your favourite Jeffery Deaver character. Put it in the comment box below. We could maybe start a discussion.